8th and final race weekend of the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup. We're at the 1988 Winter Olympic venue of Calgary in Alberta in Canada, overlooking the city at the top of the track. Hello everybody, I'm Martin Haven and John Morgan, and we're ready for the final heat of a busy weekend. The second and deciding run of the last race of the season for the four-man bobsleigh. John?
Well, exciting first heat. Kripps from Latvia, well, he's second in World Cup points. He's fourth last week in Lake Placid. It was disappointing for him. This mistake right there is probably the reason why he's in third place. But in striking to move up, but he's got to chase down these two German teams. Nico Walter. Well, the start time wasn't as good as Kripps, but everybody's been talking. Nico's, he's got a bad hamstring, but he certainly hasn't let it affect his driving ability. He's coming down the track as fast as anybody. He's in second, and he's 900s behind, well, this guy who won 8 straight two-mans. He's got 3 other four-mans he's won. He's won 12 of the 15 events he's been in this year, two-man and four-man combined. And Martin, this could be another medal year of that gold color if he keeps this up.
Yeah, the way he's going, he's feeling no pain at all. He's the defending world champion in 2 and 4-man. He's the Olympic champion in 2 and 4-man. Francesco Friedrich looking for his 5th win of the season in 4-man, as you say, completed his perfect season, 8 of 8 in the 2-man yesterday. Nico just 900ths back, and that's after giving away speed at the start, both to Friedrich and, well, pretty much to everybody else behind him as well. And that bodes well, perhaps, for him in the World Championships, especially in the 4-man, in a couple of weeks' time. Well, 21 sleds entered the field. Sun Kai-shi of China, the one man who doesn't make the top 20 in the second heat. They'll go 20 down to 1 in reverse order of their first heat performance, which means that that man, shrouded up in the yellow jacket as ever, will be the last man.
Cold.
Yeah, temperatures dropped about 10 degrees since the start of the first heat. Air temperature, that is. It's still bright and sunny, but John, it's going to be minus 26 tonight, and the mercury is plunging.
Thank God we're leaving town.
Well, not in a bad way, but it'll be a little more, well, a little less dry and a little less cold, I think, as well, when we get to Whistler next week. So Hunter Church will be first off. There's Alexei Zaitsev. He'll go in Maxim Anjonov's sled. They will be in 7th place, or they are in 7th place after the first heat. But here's our start list. Hunter Church, Xiao Yi Jun, Lamindine, Mikkel Folk, Nick Polinato of Canada, 5th off, which means he was only 16th after a very random run from him. Dominic Dvorak, 100th out of the top 10. Ahead of him, Ivan O'Brown, Rudy Rinaldi, and so on, down to Francesco Friedrich, the first heat leader. Final 20 sleds of the regular season for the BMW IBSF 4-man bobsleigh World Cup. First on the ice in the final heat of the regular year, Hunter Church of the USA in 20th place after the first heat. But there are sleds in front that are catchable, John Morgan.
Kyle Allison from Austin, Texas, Chris Kinney from Athens, Georgia, and Kyle Wilcox from Tampa Bay. You know, when they started late in the heat, the 16th best start. So, you know, being the first guy off, he's got some great ice to work with. And this young upstate New York kid from Katyville, New York, not far from Lake Placid, got fresh ice like this, and take your, you know, his start time and maybe improve his start, Martin.
Just a fraction back, but the temperature has really dropped, and inside that starting tent it'll be arctically cold. So I think the ice has been very sticky on the runs.
How about the cold weather on the muscles of the athlete?
Yeah, that too. Chris Kinney sitting at 3 in the sled, originally from Athens, Georgia, but lives in Japan.
Yeah, he's a sprinter over there from the professional tour. On the Olympic team last year for the U.S. Hunter's been driving sleds for about 7 years. He's about 22. 54.47 comes down to the 100th of a second. Justin Olsen and Brian Scheimer.
Yeah.
Exact same time as the first run. Don't know how to interpret that, you know, because he came late in the first run. It's cold, the sun's out, the track should be faster. slower start time by 400s.
Yeah.
Lines
Air
here at 8.
temperature.
Boy, he looks a little high there on that apex of 8. Here, looking for the aerodynamic profile. We can see some shoulders back there, and that's not straight. Here, a lot of people tap there out of that Kreisel. Finish. Look at the torque on the sled.
Yeah.
4 Gs, 82 miles an hour. Hunter Church.
Thanks, Calgary.
Next up is Xiao Yichun of China. He was the third of our sleds in the first heat out of the start shed, making his World Cup 4-man debut. The Chinese made their debuts in 2-man yesterday.
Well, they had 2 2-mans and a 4-man in the competition last year in Pyeongchang, Korea. Martin, I knew the states and hometowns of the Americans. I don't know that of the Japanese or the Chinese.
No, we need to dig a little deeper into the Chinese background.
They don't show us that so far in their media guide. But they're well coached by Pierre Luters, the 1998 Olympic gold medalist for Canada, who coached the Koreans at the last Olympics, the Russians in the 2014 games. And you know what their driver coach is? Andre Langa. How many times did he win here?
Not as many, yeah. 6 times out of 7 years he won here in 4-man.
So that's quite a formidable coaching staff.
Yeah. Now they, like the Americans before them, have just started 400 slower. See what the next couple of sleds do. It does seem like the start tracks
they're way back, but the difference between him and Church, he was the second guy off the hill.
Yeah.
Or third guy off the hill. So he had a much better ice to work with than Hunter, and Hunter's going to beat him considerably here.
He stopped the damage, 3300s back into the final corner. At the line, 3900s back, so he drops a spot. So Hunter
I think we better get those guys some jackets, because it's not warm out there.
Well, it doesn't feel entirely minus 18 in the sun, but it doesn't feel plus 18 either.
Martin, it's chilly in this commentator box. It's cold out.
It's cold out, yeah, definitely. Not too many days you wish you're a cameraman, John, and today's definitely not one of them.
Precision from a 4-man start. In, get down with cat-like movements. The 3-man ran too far.
Yep.
And then the dive down here in the bottom part of the truck, 11, 12, 13, where you start to motor. And now they're taking their time here.
They ran a little far up the outrun. Next up, Lamindine of Great Britain with Ryan Letts, Toby Alubi, and Tremaine Gilling.
They still have to clear the track because the Chinese are down there in it.
So Chris Woolley at the front, ready to lay the sled on the ice. It's on the ice already, but the runners are cooling down.
You know, the jury could fine those guys for not a quicker procedure getting that sled out of there, because as we know, that can be a little bit of a strategy ploy, especially if it's snowing.
Not sure I've ever seen Woolly Man wearing a jacket or a hat before. That's how cold it is. So Lamindine, this self-funded program for 2-man and 4-man this season, he's gone out and found his own sponsors. He's got sleds from the
They got in the sled. They're still not in.
And it's taken a long time to wedge themselves in. 5:24, just 100 slower than their first start. 800s in hand over Hunter Church, John, from the first heat. Still got 500s.
They had a better start, and it's down to 5. That's because they're moving around in the sled on the first curve. Now they're red numbers. That's all relative to the little mishap at the start. Little Chinese fire drill up there, we could call that. 600s back. Lyman, a lot of experience in this course. 5th here in a couple of years. The last time the event was held here, 5th place in the 4-man event.
We had podiums here in January this year in 2- and 4-man in North America's Cup races.
Came back in the, he lost it at the bottom. Look at that. So Hunter Church moves up. Lamindine, he also went. He went second. The Chinese went third. So Lyman had much better ice to work with than Hunter Church.
Yep.
Hunter's reversed the tables on him.
So there is the Grenadier Guardsman.
Seems like you just go through the motions here. But you gotta get in, get down, and get settled before the first curve. Watch this. They get in, they're not down. They're still moving around in the first curve, and when you're moving around like that, that creates more friction. And that's why his green numbers went to red by the second clock.
That was the long limbs of Toby Alubi struggling to get in behind Ryan Letts. This sled developed by McLaren, the Formula One team, for the 2014 games. Nobody's yet been able to really get their heads around it. Next up, Michael Vogt of Switzerland, here for the first time in his driving career. Only his second year as a bobsled driver. He's not a brakeman before either. 21 years old, lots of potential.
Well, let's watch how quickly they all get in the sled. Long run out here in Calgary. In, down, settle before the first curve. Mission accomplished there. Quite a bit of steering there, and he taps the wall out of curve one, Martin. Oh, that's just such a big mistake on this track where the start and velocity is such a big emphasis on your downturn.
He was 1700s ahead of Hunter Church from the first heat. That's out to 26, back down to 2400s.
He had 800s better at the start, so he should be up to 2500s here. At least 24, so that's online.
He's not building his advantage, but he's not losing anything at the moment either.
21-year-old guy.
Here we go.
28's pulling away now. This is a better run than he had in the first run.
Yep.
He also was off late, 28th off the, or excuse me, 18th off the top of the track, so that's a much better time. In fact, he's only 300 slower than his first team.
So Wolfgang Stampfer there and Christoph Langen, who are coaching.
Langen won 2 world championships here in 1996, 2 and 4. Stampfer, one of the best speed merchants the sport ever had. Look at this. Look at the runner tips. You see the way he's carved himself around there and tapped the wall.
Same as the first heat. That's a photocopy of that first corner.
Yeah, it's so easy to get around, but it's tough to get around fast.
Yeah, Christoph Langen, when he won that 4-man world championship title, set a start record in '96 that still exists. Insane. Lots of noise for Canada. Next up is Nick Polignato. You can see his teammates there at the top of the track, friends and family. Janky Dexter, new boy Fabio Silva in his second run, and the last ever World Cup start for brakeman Neville Wright.
Polignato probably had one of the loosest runs of anybody, and I expect him to do really well here in this heat, move up 3 or 4 spots, live in that leader's box. Watch his runners. He didn't tap though, but you really saw him have to steer. Looks like he got into the curve a little late.
Said in the first heat, Neville Wright started here 10 seasons ago with Pierre Luders, his first
race. You see
race.
that skid again and curve on the straightaway to 3 to 4? Only 800s up, down to 6. He should have been better than that.
Ooh. It's a pretty loose first run, wasn't it? Only 16th.
Well, you got to use the word more than pretty loose. Now down to 3.
Ooh. Finished 7th yesterday in the 2-man race. This is not of the same caliber.
Oh.
They'll be doing well to hang on.
-3.
300s in it.
Fall back behind the Swiss boy, another tap there.
Yeah, 3/10 from first to second. He's in second place, 54.45.
1,600 slower. Now remember the first couple of sleds, first guy we saw, Hunter Church, went the exact same time. Polignato's a better driver than that.
87th and last World Cup start for brakeman Neville Wright.
Give it up for Neville.
Wow.
What a player.
87.
Look at the runner tips. Look at that. Well, you never see runners steer like that. I wonder, you know, that's not the only team we've seen do that.
Yeah. Really getting late into turn 1.
Here. Not bad. Next to the Kreisel.
Well, there's Big Neville at the back, 3 times an Olympian. He's been to 4 World Championships. Next week will be his 5th and final World Championships.
Hey, Neville, great work. Great way to represent your country.
Kids should be super proud of your dad. Michael Vogt leads from Nick Polignato and Hunter Church. 5 down, 15 to go. Calgary, Alberta in Canada. Final World Cup 4-man race of the season. Martin Haven and John Morgan watching trackside as Jeff Gabwa of the USA gets ready to take on the race leader, Michael Vogt of Switzerland.
Blaine McConnell from Tacoma, Washington. Adrian Adams from Reidsville, North Carolina. And Chris Horn from Pembroke, Massachusetts.
Adams, the veteran on the crew, 6 seasons under his belt.
Down. 5:24. Well, that's exactly what they had. They had 26 in the first run. This is the sled that won the gold medal here in 2000, November 13. Steve Holcomb was driving it. This is the Night Train 2. And Gadbois had the 4th best speed in the first run, coming late in the run.
Yeah, there's life in the old dog yet, isn't there? 100 behind, 200s behind Mikkel Vogt. They were only 300s apart in the first heat, John. So this is...
There! Boy, he skidded hard. 6 to 7 he hurt, then 7 to 8. Sled got away from him.
Speed is still good. This is not so much now. 1:23.4. What's he got at the bottom?
Now he's going to fall back at least 2 places. Got it straightened out.
Good speed at the bottom. 1:31.8. Only 3rd place, though.
Beats his teammate Hunter Church by 100th of a second.
Well, there wasn't much between them in the first heat.
Well, mistakes up there, 6, 7, 8 combination. He tapped before he got into 6. Crossover 6, 7, got it into a skid at Omega. Here, 6, 7. Look at the skid there. This is climbing at 7, 8. Then the climb, look how high he gets up with the lip. Then he's got to drive out flat. And boy, when you get the 4-man sled up in the air like this, and look at the skidding down the ice.
See all the bodies bounce as well. Yep.
And then pretty much the rest of the ride down was, you know, pedestrian. But that mistake, 6, 7, and 8. But, you know, and he's been on the track a lot this year. He's had a couple races up here.
Well, 2/10 ahead of Hunter Church in the first heat, 100th after 2. Yunjin Suk of Korea is next up, 14th after the first of our 2 heats, and he has 400s in hand over Mikkel Vogt. Do you think this race is tight enough already?
Well, the brakeman here was part of the silver medal sled. Juan, who won the Pyeongchang last year. That's just rudder tips. Yeah,
Oh,
everybody's got to do that.
Maybe it's the sun on the run into the
I don't
corner
know.
there.
I think we're going to see some sleds get out of there with more of a body lean than the steer like that.
It looks like they're hitting ice there, doesn't it, as they skid into the turn. Well, Suk is behind Vogt. This is a massively tight group of sleds.
5 sleds by 10 hundreds. Bad Exodus 7 there, and he got away with it. Boy, lost more ground. Clean. Speed. Decent. 14 back, though. Now he's going to fall back a couple spots behind Polinato, too.
Yep. This is the 4th of 6 sleds covered by 600s
So
in the first
the Swiss
heat.
better get their jackets on.
Yeah. So Suk comes across the line in 3rd.
Yeah, 2100, 3100 slower than his first run.
Yeah.
Should have done better than that. He started 20th.
Yeah.
Look at the rudder tips. You don't ever see that too often on tracks where you have to steer that much.
That's as much steering as
we're
there
gonna
is.
see,
That's
yeah.
it. That's full lock.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Then the skid between 7 and 8. How high does he get? Now then he's got to steer away from that, you know, and that's, you steer like that in that part of the course you lose your velocity.
There's Suk at the back. Next up, Marcus Treichel. He had 500s in hand over Mikkel Vogt, our current leader. Every one of these sleds with 1 extra 100th of separation. The young Austrian, just 25, never here before, but grew up at Innsbruck, where his folks helped run the track, so he knows about keeping a glider's line.
525 in the first one. Look at it, he did not steer on the curve like we saw the other sleds. 525, now he's at 520.
Maybe the Austrian coaches are watching the video and go, hey, steer early into turn 1.
Everybody saw the video in the first heat.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people with that problem there.
Yeah. Or maybe he's just learned quicker.
700s to 700s.
All right.
Should have been farther out than that on both because he beat him at the start considerably. That's not good.
Well, beat him by 100 at the start, so
600s.
here we go. That's his first round advantage.
Game on right here, clean. The track will give you good speed down to 100. Oh boy, too close to call.
Yep.
Maybe our first tie. Probably not though.
Let's see what he's got at the bottom. Enough to hold on, not enough to hold on.
So Vogt's moved up another one.
Yeah.
The 21-year-old.
Started 17th in this heat. He's now leading with 12 to go. So he's picked off 4 sleds in front of him. Polonyato, Gabwa, Suk, and Trikel. And
That's
the next
pretty good.
sled, Alexander Bradikin,
They need
600s advantage.
They need their jackets.
Yeah, and they need somebody else's jackets.
Look at that skid there. That was in 6 to 7. And this is the Omega curve where he has to steer twice. Look at the late there on that curve, up into the 8. That was 7 to 8. Look how high he got there. Then what happens when you get that high? You got to dive out.
Carving
and
the ice.
Now watch this.
Yeah.
That's 1,400 pounds going sideways across the ice at 73 miles an hour. Friction.
Alexander Bradikin of Russia, the youngster who made his World Cup debut this season in Sigulda. So he's now in his 7th World Cup start. Bradikin has never raced here before either. Quite a number of drivers who haven't.
You see all the holes in that push bar.
Yep.
That's related to get all the weight out of there so they can reposition the weight depending on the track. That's a strategy used by the sled mechanics.
23 years old, first time in Canada.
Looks very athletic.
Yeah. 5:22, good start.
And he's got to steer hard, and he's got to skid.
Ooh. Well, he had 600s in hand. What's he got left at the next clock?
Could be red numbers by the time he gets to this clock.
It's a long wait.
No, still got 6.
All right.
So he maintained that with that skid. 5. Well, now the penalties start.
Yeah. Mikkel Vogt will be watching this intently, won't he?
4.
Where are the mistakes coming? Exit of the Kreisel, not bad.
Pretty good. Still,
yeah.
the drive lines are perfect.
11 to 12.
200s. Now the question is, he could drop 2 spots behind the Austrian too. 7, 800s back.
Not going to catch him, is he?
13, no,
4
4
places.
3 spots. He filed all the way behind Polonyato. Somebody's got to get them guys jackets.
Yeah.
That's they've been out there for almost 15 minutes in minus 14 weather.
Yeah, they're in the sun, but it's
it
not warm.
matter.
No. It is
Especially
not warm.
when you're wearing a long bathing suit.
Well, look at the Russian coaches there. They're down there in the same place, in the same sun, and they've got like 23 layers on, sensibly so.
Look at the runners. Not too bad, but the skid here.
Yeah.
So that little
Bit less
first
than turn
curve,
1, but still too much.
never seen so many problems at first curve as we're seeing here. Watching sliding in this track since '87. Exits quiet there. Was that a Kreisel? Look at the size of this.
Yeah, Ilya Malik rather. Next up for the Czech Republic, Dominik Dvorak. 100th out of the top 10 on his first trip down Calgary in a 4-man. And his advantage over Mikkel Vogt is fully 12 hundredths of a second. This is going to be very interesting.
So they had a 16 start. They know how important every 100th is. They might run too far. Watch out, in and down, settle before the first curve. They do it 16, exact same as the first run. And he steers around there, but not as bad as most.
Well, that gives him 21 hundredths of an advantage. Let's see what he's got at the next clock.
Should be at least 21. If it's not, he's in trouble. 27. Well, the next clock, that goes into the teens. Watch out.
This young crew were the 5th fastest starters in the first heat. They are really superb in all departments.
The Czech's got something here.
Yeah.
Not only with the 4-man, but with the 2-man. He has made some advancing strides in the sport this season. Almost a breakout season for him.
Yeah. 2600s. Still got the lead.
It's clean, too. Look at the lines here. Down to 21. He'll get it down to the 11, 12, 13 mark, but he'll be the leader. 17. Good run. 54.28, only 10 slower. The Swiss can go and put their jackets on finally. But they'll take that. The Swiss moved up 5 spots into 11th position for that 21-year-old.
Yeah, Dominik Dvorak, 4th in the 2-man World Cup rankings this year, 7th in 4-man, even after being disqualified in St. Moritz.
In, down. Then watch the runner tips. Look at the brakeman just ducking his head. They're still moving around in there.
Yeah.
Hey,
and that's probably not helping, is it? Just shifting the back of the sled.
No, not at all. Hey, Michael Vogt just posted his 11th best finish time. No, he can do no worse than 11th. That's his best personal best ever. So
yes, it is.
Kudos to him. Exactly. I love athletes achieving their personal bests.
Good point. So, Dominik Dvorak, Michael Vogt and Markus Treichel, 3 drivers who've never been here before, leading with 10 to go. Well, John, I think the performance of Vogt and Treichel, and especially of Dvorak, well, especially of Vogt actually as well, really show that the young generation learn fast. Look
There's
at
2 more
guys.
coming. There's Rudy Rinaldi. How about, Roman Heinrich?
Yeah.
I mean, and there's different countries. Ludi's not racing today for Poland, and he's another one. So, I mean, we're talking Czech Republic, Poland, Monaco.
Yeah. Young drivers, small nations, small teams, it's really batting above their average.
The first year after the Olympics, so this is the 4-year period between the quad.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time really to make hay, but almost nobody's retired. Almost none of the big guns are not performing. You know, you've still got Kripps, you've still got Friedrich, you've got all the Germans are still as strong as they were. You know, that's 4 or 5 of the top positions immediately, and these guys are still ending up with top 5 and 6 runs.
There's the guy. Yeah. Dvorak, I'm telling you, he's the fastest guy in the front seat in the field. Runs at 10.8, 100 meters right there. And if you can run 100 meters like that and you're driving a bobsled, you got a couple horses behind you, you got a chance.
Michael Vogt offering his congratulations to the Swiss, to the Czech Republic team. Yeah, Latvian flags waiting. They're going to have to longer wait for Oskars Kībermanis.
The crowd isn't really standing outside on the track. They're up there at that start area, which is enclosed.
But it's even colder in there because there is no sun.
There's no wind, though.
Yeah, well, that's a factor, definitely. You see how much our officials are wrapped up.
Get the boys some jackets.
Czech Republic leading with Dominik Dvorak, Dominik Suchy, Jan Sindela, and on the right, Jakub Mošin. Our race leaders from the Czech Republic, checking out the beards in the monitors as they hang out in the leaders box. 10 down, 10 to go, final World Cup race of the season for 4-man bobsleigh. Martin Haven and John Morgan, trackside in Calgary in Canada.
Well, Ivo de Bruin from the Netherlands, he's got a very safe 100th of a second lead here. And he's got to match a really good start. 5:19 in the first run. They're going to have to do better. No, they don't. What's he do in the first curve? Look at that. Now there's some body lean getting around the first curve without steering. Unlike most of the sleds we've seen come down so far, but of course this is like almost his home track.
Well, not almost. He lives in Calgary. He and his wife Christina Brown, who slides for Canada. So they live here, he works here in the summer, he drives bobsleds for tourists in the summer. He's raced here more than a dozen times in 2-man and 4-man.
Well, he better put the afterburners on here. What's the good take on? How does he come out of the outline? He's got a slingshot to the bottom because he's down by a lot of time. 1700ths.
Nice lines though. Economical 19. With the steering.
Now he's gonna drop at least 2 places.
Yeah.
If he can find something in here, he can maybe drop 1.
Not the final heat he wanted. He's 3rd at the line.
So Dvorak gets up into the top 10. Still good run for Ivo de Bruin. He's in the top 10 in the World Cup points. This is going to put him in 10th, right? 9th. No worse than, 11th.
11th, 12th at the moment. So best result of the season for him, 8th place in Koenigsegg.
He'll still end up in the top 10 of the World Cup. Yeah. That's pretty good.
Well, I don't know, Rudy Rinaldi yet to come, not too far behind him. Justin Kripps might overhaul him as well, we'll see.
Oh yeah, there's the steering.
That's better.
He was steering early, but he steered less.
Yeah.
And then,
well, what do you always say? It's not the guy that steers the most.
It's the guy or girl that steers the least. Runner tips here, nice exit. Of course, he's been down 1,000 times in the wheel sled.
Iedereen guys, bedankt voor het kijken van zijn topseizoen. Helemaal super. Goed gedaan, jongen.
9 sleds to go in the World Cup season. We're in Calgary in Canada watching Rudy Rinaldi, the man who led the first heat in Lake Placid, a track he had also never been to.
He only had 5 trips in a 4-man.
Yeah.
The 5th trip he crashed. Okay, 5:18 in the first run. They're still a little wounded from that crash last week.
Only his 10th ever 4-man race.
A lot of steering.
5:17, that's a little quicker.
Push bars out a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, not good there.
Little skid, 0.08 of a second behind Dvorak. This is for 9th place.
1500ths, 1000ths, that's not bad. He's probably going to stop the bleeding there. If he's perfect down here, he can catch him on the bottom. So much confidence, even after that crash last week. He was saying, this is not a surprise to me to be in that position. But I'm looking at him. He had finished 4th in St. Moritz in the 4-man, so I'm going, well, maybe this young guy is going to be able to do it.
Yeah, he's 12, a few hundreds out of the medals. He's just losing a fraction with every turn here, isn't he? And at the line behind Dvorak in second.
Still a good run.
It was a quicker run than everybody except for Dvorak, who came down in 54.28.
Hey, he missed 2 races, had that crash last week, and he missed, and he's still 11th in points.
Yeah,
and he'll stay there.
His brakeman Steven Borges Mendonca tore his hamstring in the first race of the season, so that's put a kink in their 4-man team because there are just the 4 of them.
A little mistake here. This is a 10th at least up there between 3 and 4. And the runner tips here tell you everything. The exit of 8. And that push bar, well, it doesn't look like much. He taps, but that's aerodynamics. Don't think that that's not a 100th here or 100th there. And they
go a long way up the outrun.
So that's a hold. Little unnerving for the next team to come down.
So Dvorak, Rinaldi, Vogt. 3 drivers who have never seen the track before lead with 8 to go.
So Dvorak is in that leader's box. His top finish of the year is 5th.
What's blowing across the track? A little bit of snow, backed up by the wind. Olympic silver medalist Yoon Jong-won of Korea. 25 plus races on this track in 2-man and 4-man. He knows this place well.
But when I asked him, because North America is where they've had all the trips, not on their track in Pyeongchang. There's our leaders. I asked him, what track have you been down more than any other in North America? I'm for sure going to say Calgary. He said Lake Placid.
Yeah. Placid opens early every season, closes late, and the doors are always open. 5:20, they started 5:19 in the first heat.
Already in the red numbers. That's because he got beat at the start by 500ths, 400ths.
And he was only 500ths up, John.
Now this is 4. Okay, next clock at 6 or 7, he's got a chance to find the speed line on the bottom. But if he bleeds anymore 5, that's not bad. So you could almost think to stop the bleeding, but that wasn't a good line in the Vega. But he gets out of 8 clean.
That's a little better now. Can he find
2,
himself
here he comes.
the time?
That line out of 8 did it.
Oh, gets skiddy out.
200s to 200s.
No time to recover here. These corners all leading to each other, and at the line he'll be behind 20. He is
7. Oh, drop 1 spot to the Czechs.
Yeah, 1,200 slower than the Czechs. He only had 500s in the tank.
Yeah, 2,700 slower than his first run.
Yeah. And the Czechs closest to their first run heat, only a 10th slower. Although Hunter Church tied his first run exactly, didn't he? But it's a little further down the order.
Well, his best finish of the season was a 6th in Lake Placid last week. The start, good. Push bars in. Finish, or the exit of Kreisel. Well, look at the brakeman in the back. I don't like that look for air. You know, the air goes over the top of the driver's shoulders, and as it exits out the back, they call that dirty air. Martin, the same thing in auto racing.
Yep.
The air at the back has a lot to do with the way you push through the front.
That's the parachute that the body creates. 7 to go. Dominik Dvorak of the Czech Republic, our race leader. Little bit of a hold on the line for Russia's Maxim Andrianov. All his teammates are there. With her back to us, Elena Nikitina, the new Crystal Globe winner in women's skeleton.
Yeah, the Russians won the Globe in both men's and women's skeleton.
Yeah. First time ever in women's skeleton for Russia.
Looks like the Germans are going to win the 2-man and the women's and the 4-man and the combined.
Yep. Those will be spread between just 2 names. Mariam Yamanka won the women's Crystal Globe. Friedrich, the 2-man, he's going to win the 4-man and the combined.
Well, it's down to 8. Now, this Russian here won his first ever World Cup medal last week in Lake Placid.
Yep. 1,300 up from the first heat. What's he got left? Opened it up a fraction from 8 to 900. So
he hasn't touched a wall yet.
Not quite as quick as Dvorak. The gap's still coming down.
The track is deteriorating. Remember, Dvorak came down 6 sleds ago.
And at the line, he's still in front by 200s. 54.39 slide. 200s in front of Dominik Dvorak with 6 to go. Andrianov leads, and like you say, John, his first ever career medal in Lake Placid. 30-year-old Maxim Andrianov leads, 6 sleds to go. He's still got a couple of jokers in the back.
Wow. He's 5th in World Cup points, Martin. He's back in this position, probably going to maintain his spot.
The worst result of the season, John, has been a 6th, and the best has been a 3rd. That's the consistency that's got him where he is. Well, right now, this is potentially his worst result of the year, actually, because he's leading, but there are still 6 to go. And this man here, Roman Heinrich, will decide who gets a better run here. So Roman Heinrich, top 6. He had 700s in hand over Maxim Andrianov of Russia.
Martin, he had the 15th best start in the first run. He had the best speed on the bottom part of the track. And when you have the 15th best start, you usually don't achieve the top speed on the bottom unless you're a German sled.
And at 2, Lionel Lefebvre did race in Lake Placid last week.
Oh, they're still scrambling.
5:24, same as their first start.
He was behind the 8 ball all the way down the track to the bottom. It was shocking to see him do what he did, and then we saw the speed. 900s. Next clock, 10 or 11, means he stops the bleeding. And Russians will be history there. So I think he stopped the bleeding. Here we go.
Now, let's see what he's got.
Clean exit here out of 8 is criteria needed.
Straight down the tubes into the
Kreisel.
He's
lost more back, though.
125 kilometers an hour.
I can't see him getting that 1300s back here, but he surprised us in the first run. 10, here he comes. This is what the sled did in the first run.
Here we go. Hunter Church, by the way, in the Night Train 2, fastest at the bottom, and Heinrich.
No, can't do it.
800s back. So Andrianov will be no worse than 6th, and Roman Heinrich drops 2 behind Dvorak. So he'll be no worse than 8th. And Roma, 13th, 16th, 15th, 14th, 19th, 17th. No single-digit finish in 4-man this year.
He's just been driving. He probably doesn't have 40 trips in a 4-man in his career.
No.
You know, and his 2-man, same thing. I mean, he's such a new driver. You know, December 16 is when he went home to Le Plan and got a bunch of trips.
This is his 8th World Cup race as a driver.
Silver medal last week in Lake Placid. What he's done for French bobsledding. Again, first medals in French bobsledding since the 99 World Championships. 2-man, Bruno Méjean got a bronze, but then Méjean went on to win the 4-man title. But in this century, the French have not medaled like that.
Well, Roman Heinrich and his crew causing a little bit of a delay as Corrie Hole made her debut yesterday in the women's bobsled race for Canada. Todd Hayes at the back of the sled, ready to lay it on the ice for Justin Kripps, Ryan Summer, Cam Stones, and Ben Colywha. A lot of experience in this team.
Track's cleared. It's got 60 seconds to go. You see the clock there? They have 60 seconds to go now in this time period. They're going to go as quickly as they can.
Yeah, hurry up offense from the Canadians. Top 5 in the first heat.
5:11. the little variance.
Skids into the wall.
Watch
Push
out.
bars weren't in.
5-10. Look at him. Look at the runner tips. He's trying to get control. Velocity's not great.
2/10 over Anginov from the first heat. They started quicker than the Russians. 2800s up.
But I don't know. We'll see how that change of direction before the first curve. Going down 100. Ooh, he almost tapped at the crossover from 6 to 7.
He's had a tough couple of weekends in the two-man. Last weekend, everybody wanted him to lose to Monaco because it would have been a great story. And this weekend, nobody wanted him to beat Friedrich for the perfect season. Kind of unfair.
Little Rodney Dangerfield stuff. 29. This is a good run considering the mishap he had at that start.
I tell you what, he is being fast and loose. Justin Kripps at the line leads with 5:4 to go.
54.25. Wow, 40 hundredths slower.
All right. Well, let's see if that's enough to put him into the medals.
Yeah, he had 20 hundredths to start with. He ends up 25 hundredths better in this heat too. But boy, that start, that drift, I can't believe that didn't cost him. Maybe they try to run too far. In, get down. Now watch the end of the runner grooves. Look at it going to the right. Does he tap? Can't tell there.
Looked like it bounced off the wall a fraction.
Boy, but then out of curve one, you saw him check those runners a couple times. Down here, he was just fast.
Big height as he gets down into the fastest portion of the track, letting it fly. Justin Kripps leads, 4 to go.
3 of the 4 Germans.
Four sleds to go in the bobsleigh four-man World Cup season in Calgary in Canada. Martin Haven and John Morgan watching to see who decides the medals. Justin Kripps leads. Johannes Lochner, first time on the track, lying in 4th place after the first heat. Just 2 hundredths faster than the Canadians in the first run. Last year's World Cup champion in four-man.
Snuck into a bronze medal yesterday in the two-man. He's in 3rd in World Cup points in the final competition here. All he's got to do is get to the bottom, and he will win at least a bronze medal. Ooh, start 5:10, 5:16 in the first run. I'm sure the coaches talked to him because the next German team coming up had a 5:16 start, but their driver's got a hamstring issue. And it's only down to 6.
Wow.
Yeah, should have had a bigger.
Well, he started the same as Kripps. He only had 2 hundredths from the first heat, so he's actually creeping away from Kripps.
Now he is 8, maybe a 10 or 12 here.
Little tap down
14.
into the Kreisel. Here we go. 1:29.4. That's the fastest.
Wow, that's clean lines there. That's smooth.
Top speed 21. At the bottom, John. Still Hunter Church in the night train. 77 miles an hour. Not as quick as Church yet.
Well, Church went first. He's got the fast ice to work with. 54.01. So there's 18 hundredths worse than the first run.
Yeah.
Kripps was 20 hundredths, 22 hundredths worse. So there's a bronze medal for Hansi Lochner.
Not yet. Not yet. Well, in the World Cup rankings, possibly, but not yet in this race.
No.
Last year's World Cup champion. Yeah, he's going to seal himself in.
World champion in 2017, tied to the 100th with
Friedrich.
Team at Friedrich.
Yeah.
Look at the runner tips. Oh, that was a very, very pedestrian turn around that curve.
That was a trooper turn.
Yeah.
He threw it in sideways.
Sideways. Look at this. He's still sideways there.
Yeah. And that's that late steer onto one again.
Yeah. Of course, he hasn't been here. Right? He wasn't here 4 years ago. This is his first week here.
No,
Hansi.
He didn't do the North American races that season. He didn't start in World Cup till we got to Europe. That's when we first saw that goofy grin. 3 to go in Calgary. Oskars Kybermanis. Last man to win a World Cup race on this track in four-man was also a Latvian, also called Oskars. Lightning strike twice. Kybermanis needs a big run here. He's 13 hundredths off the lead.
5:06, best start in the first run, but they had issues around the first curve. Quicker down, 5:07. What's he do on the first curve? And
bit of a steer, but it wasn't as much of a skid into the wall as in the first.
60.6. Should have had better velocity than that. Ooh, he's in a drift.
Same as Lochner.
15 hundredths up. goes back to 9 or 10. We have a good race on our hands, and he's holding it. Tapped before 7. Runner tips here.
Oh. Skid gets it back for the Kreisel.
12.
130.2, quicker than Lochner.
This is the guy second in World Cup points.
Not as quick as Lochner.
Oh, watch out! This is close.
No. The German had better speed in his Valner sled.
Oh, he doesn't have it.
And he's not going to get him at the line. Lochner leads. He's in the medals. Jawohl! Is that the first Jawohl of the season? I think it might be. Oscar's Kieber Manis.
One had 12 hundredths on the exit of Kreisel.
Well, it was that little drift as he came from the Kreisel, and then 11-12, he was late. Just had to steer a fraction more than he wanted.
This is up top. There's a drift here out of 3.
Same as Lochner, probably
Tap there too. This is a crossover 6 to 7.
Yeah, took a bit much of 7
going
going
up
on.
high, comes down low. Then this is the exit of 8, and this is where he lost it.
Yeah.
That's when you want to come out of there with a slingshot effect on a very steep incline. Let the sled fly to the fastest part of the track, and then this was on the exit of Kreisel, and that wasn't bad. I think the exit of 8 did him in. He's watching it.
Yeah. 2 to go, both Germans. We could have a sweep of the podium here for German sleds. Nico Walter running maybe 75% fitness.
Look at him, he's just jogging. 10 steps, he's just...
Yeah, look at his legs compared to Alex Rodinger on the left.
Down, 15. And he didn't see any variance of those runners coming around there. I said the first run, a couple coaches told me that they think this driver here is the best driver in the competition. 2:04. You know, it's one thing to be a German bobsledder. You know, we always say, oh, they got the equipment, they got the athletes. You still got to steer these things. You still got to be the archer.
900s in hand over Hansi Lochner. It was 1400s in the first heat. Still 900s up. Ooh.
That wasn't perfect.
Well, I don't think anybody's
Down to
perfect
4.
down here.
Watch out, right to the 100th here.
What's the FES sled got at the bottom? He's rattled the wall. I think he's going to be in the red at the line. No, by 200s.
Painful.
Yay, wow. From 1400s up to 200s up, but they're in the silver medal position at least.
Now, he went up a little bit.
Yep.
I don't know if that's strategy or not, because I think the longer he waits, the more sun gets on the track, the better conditions for this guy coming up named Friedrich.
First and third in the season opener, double 4-man in Winterberg. Third next time out at home in Altenburg, but tore his hamstring, and that relegated him to 7th, 6th, 5th up until now.
This wasn't the run that he had in the first heat. Crosses from right to left in this long straight. Watch the head snap as he gets on the take-on of this 4 Gs of force, and then on the exit of that curve, slides into the wall. Not his best run, Mark.
No, but look, he's bubbly and enjoying it.
There's his teammates. Look at
there's
no
Lochner.
hostility between these guys.
No, none at all.
Great camaraderie.
And Francesco Friedrich looking for win number 5 of the season in 4-man to go with 8 wins in 2-man.
In down, watch out, 5'10", that's a conservative start. And he just finds a way to get around that first curve without steering like most sleds we've seen.
Since the Olympics, he has changed the way he drives. He is now just getting looser and looser with the sled, trimming it out for speed, and judging his reflexes to hold it under control.
Mark, the more he wins, the humbler he gets.
Yeah.
This is amazing when you interview him. You think he's last. You know, he's a great sportsman, treats everybody well.
2100s up, 2300s up.
So he just looks like he swept this weekend. Wow, as he goes into the World Championships, he's won 12 or 13 times this year, right?
Yeah, 5 and 8 out of 16 races, 54.03 run.
13th for 16. He missed the podium one time. You can make a lot of money doing that in other sports.
Yeah, the only race he didn't make the podium all year in either sled was last week in Lake Placid in the four-man when he was 4th. Well, Francesco Friedrich, that is his 7th win in 22 four-man podiums, and 5 of those are this year. Holy cow.
Torsten Marcus
Alice
on the
good,
back.
says Torsten Marcus. He was just checking to see he was okay. Why aren't you getting out? Yes, I'm fine. I'm fine. Nothing to see here.
Next week, he's on the verge of a two-man competition gold medal at the World Championships to tie the legendary Eugenio Monti, who's the Pele of our sport. What this young German athlete is doing is historical in nature for sure.
No question at all about it. We are witnessing something
History,
very special. Andre Langer got the attention the way this kid does, and there's no doubt that he has a great opportunity. He's got time on his side to rack up more medals, more trophies, even than the great Eugenio Monti and Andre Langer. It is victory in Calgary for Francesco Friedrich. Nico Walter and Hansi Lochner sweep the podium 200s apart. Kieberman is 4th, Kripps 5th, and Ginhoff in 6th ahead of the youngsters Dvorak, Heinrich and Rinaldi in the top 10. Great for all of them. Mikkel Vogt, Ivo de Bruin, then Treichel, and behind him the second the Canadian sleds with Nick Polignato, and some down to 20th place. Wow, it's trying to come up with new ways of describing how good and how nice Francesco Friedrich is. It's one of the hardest parts of this sport. There's the result. Let's take a look at that. Nico Walter, 1900s back. Hansi Lochner, 2100s back. He was 2300s off the leader. So actually, Lochner drove faster down the second trip by a couple of hundreds than Francesco Friedrich. Unfortunately, he wasn't close enough to take advantage of it. And Francesco Friedrich, that was his 52nd start in four-man in World Cup. It was his 22nd podium and his 7th win. And in the last 2 years, he has suddenly started hoovering up the medals. Well, Hansi Lochner laughing away as ever. There's Hester nailing jelly to the ceiling as always, trying to corral the troops, getting the Germans to German television, then getting them back for us. And a sweep of the podium for Germany. Last time a German won on this track 2 races ago, that was Max Arndt. He tied for gold with Stephen Holcomb. Manny Mahata won the 2 before that. Holcomb won 2007, 2008. And before that, Andre Langer won 7 of 8. Only Todd Hayes in 2001-2 breaking that domination. And the last Canadian win here, 21 seasons ago. Pierre Luders, Ken LeBlanc, Jack Pick and Ricardo Greenridge were the crew as Luders took four-man gold. Canadian has not topped the podium in four-man in Calgary since then. Final four-man World Cup race of the BMW IBSF season, won by Francesco Friedrich, his 5th win in 8 starts, and he is the Crystal Globe winner, the World Cup champion in four-man as in 2 and in combined. Oskars Kiebermanis the runner-up, Hansi Lochner in 3rd ahead of his injured teammate Nico Walter. Behind them, you can see how strong a season it's been for the likes of Rudy Rinaldi, Roman Heinrich, Ivo de Bruin in the top 10 as well. And the young drivers coming on very strong. Dominik Dvorak firmly up in the top 10. Alexander Bradikin, the Russian, also having a really strong rookie season. You can see there all of the other point scorers this season. And that brings to an end our World Cup campaign. Seemed perhaps almost inevitable that the double world, double Olympic champion would become a double race winner and tie up all the Crystal Globe trophies this season. Francesco Friedrich flying to victory. Runner-up in the four-man World Cup rankings last year to teammate Johannes Lochner. He claims victory this year in 2 and 4, and therefore, obviously, he's also the combined champion, which puts all the points earned together. Well, in third place, on the right-hand side of your picture, Nico Walter and Hansi Lochner, rather, and his team. Johannes there in the left on the back row. Nico Walter left on the far left of your picture, and his crew take the silver medal. And in the middle, with their rainbow hats, Francesco Friedrich and his boys. And they do it once more. Candy Bauer with the beard Martin Grottkop at the back and the tall figure of Torsten Margis. Silver medalist here, last time out 4 years ago. Francesco Friedrich goes one better to claim his 7th World Cup four-man win. Fantastic stuff to round out the season here in Calgary, in Canada. Next up, the World Championships in Whistler, the fastest ice on the planet. Join John Morgan, me, Martin Haven, and the IBSF TV crew next week from Whistler as we begin 2 weeks of coverage of the fastest sport you'll see for the rest of the season. Until then, from Calgary, it's goodbye.